from alleged feuds with the mafia to some downright disrespectful remarks. The notorious Conor McGregor definitely lives up to his nickname. These are the reasons why Conor McGregor is so hated. The self-proclaimed face of the fight game is a man that divides opinions, and pretty much everything he does and says makes headlines. Loved by many, but hated by just as much. Where do we even begin? I guess at the beginning. The first man to have a problem with Conor McGregor was his own father. It's well known that before becoming the combat sports star that he is now, Conor McGregor was rather lazy. Dublin-born McGregor wasn't always the charismatic, exceptional fighter he would later become. His first job was actually much different. He was a plumber. Well, he got a job as a plumber's apprentice, but young Conor did not like to work. He would constantly miss shifts and refuse to get out of bed. It was so bad that him and his dad would frequently get into fights over his laziness and poor work ethic. Luckily for McGregor, though, there was one man that believed in him. That was his coach, John Kavanagh. While he was a plumber, McGregor would start to learn boxing and then MMA. He may not have been very motivated to work, but he always found the energy to fight. He often found himself in trouble for various, let's say, not too legal reasons. When Tony McGregor, Conor's father, had finally had enough of him lazing around and doing nothing with his life, he employed the help of Kavanagh to try and motivate him. He was the only guy that Conor would listen to and eventually decided it was better for Conor to just focus on fighting. Although the two are known now to have a great bond, it wasn't always that way. In fact, in the early days, Conor did a few things that really got on his coach's nerves. For one, John Kavanagh was a jiu-jitsu specialist, whereas Conor only wanted to box. In John Kavanagh's book, Win or Learn, he told a few stories about the beginnings of their relationship, and let's say it was not good. Conor once asked Kavanagh, "Why do I need to learn the ground game when I can just knock people out?" Kavanagh took serious offense at this. He asked Conor to get in the ring and do a few rounds with him. He immediately took McGregor down and taught him a harsh lesson about why the ground game is equally as important as striking. Although that humbled Conor for a while, the brash young Irishman would constantly annoy Kavanagh. From stealing ticket money from his fights to arguments with fellow teammates, a young McGregor was as cocky and downright rude as he is now. McGregor was known to go too hard in sparring against his teammates and was warned many times to calm down and take it lightly. He went too far one day, though, when he dropped one of his female teammates with a body shot. Kavanagh was furious. He jumped in the ring, took McGregor down, and let's say taught him a lesson he wouldn't forget. The two would eventually become a great team, and McGregor always pays homage to Kavanagh, who never gave up on him. Even though his coach would eventually grow fond of him, that didn't mean everyone else did. After a successful amateur career, he'd turn pro in 2008. After winning many fights and only losing a couple, he became Double Cage Warriors champion. And in 2013, he would sign with the UFC. That's when the real trouble began. After knocking out almost everyone that was put in front of him, McGregor would fly up the rankings, earning love from the fans. But he also made a lot of enemies along the way. He even managed to become hated by an entire country. This country was Brazil. His feud with Brazilian fighters started when he fought Diego Brandao in Dublin. Although he was fairly new to the UFC, this fight is when he truly became notorious. He made quick work of Brandao and would then call out pound-for-pound #1 and featherweight champ at the time, Jose Aldo. The two wouldn't fight immediately, and Conor would fight 4 more times before finally getting his chance at the belt.
Look at the first knockdown here. Beautiful counter, and then stunned him hard with the second one.
Not only did he knock everyone out on the way to his championship fight, he proceeded to call out literally everyone in the division. He called #2, Chad Mendes, a midget, Dustin Poirier Diamond Head, and repeatedly antagonized champ Jose Aldo. After beating everyone along the way, he would eventually fight the Brazilian champ Jose Aldo. By the time they fought, Aldo absolutely hated McGregor. McGregor repeatedly mocked Aldo's family, and even learned a bit of Portuguese to threaten the champ's life in his native tongue. At the press conference before the fight, he took things way too far. He was being booed by the Brazilian fans in Rio de Janeiro, where he took to the mic and said one of his nastiest lines ever. He said, "I own Rio de Janeiro. I own this town. If this was a different time, I'd invade the favela on horseback and kill everyone that wasn't fit to work." I think we can all agree that was way too far, and the Brazilian fans really wanted to kill him. They wouldn't be the only people that wanted to kill McGregor, though. He even had people in his hometown of Dublin threatening his life. McGregor is known to have serious drinking problems, and back in 2017 he got himself in a world of trouble while drinking at a well-known Dublin bar that's frequently occupied by notorious gangsters. A fight broke out and McGregor ended up punching two men. One was young and one was 50 years old. This sparked an uproar as one of the men were affiliated with a very dangerous Dublin drug cartel. There's a lot of speculation and rumors about the incident, but some reports say the cartel placed a massive bounty on McGregor's head. Nothing came of it though, and some reported that McGregor's dad had even paid the bounty to avoid his son getting seriously hurt or even killed. Who knows what really happened, but it wouldn't be the last time McGregor's drinking would get him into trouble. 2 years later in 2019, McGregor would make global news for an unprovoked punch to an old man at another bar. The bar was called the Marble Arch Pub, and McGregor entered it on April 6th of that year. In high spirits, McGregor decided to buy everyone a round of his newly launched whiskey brand Proper 12. One man, though, an elderly gentleman, repeatedly refused to drink his free shot, and McGregor was furious. Video footage emerged of McGregor punching the man in the face. This caused insane backlash and legal trouble, and although obviously in the wrong, McGregor wasn't finished. Despite the man who refused to drink his whiskey, McGregor would later buy the pub and ban the man from entering. Talk about petty. There's too many situations McGregor has found himself in that have caused people to hate him. He's punched DJs in the face while on vacation, roasted an entire press conference of UFC fighters, and even smashed a fan's phone when he tried to take pictures of him. But there's one man that hates McGregor more than anyone else. That man is Khabib Nurmagomedov. The two were once friends, and Khabib even said he looked up to Conor McGregor. That all changed though when Khabib had beef with McGregor's teammate Artem Lobov. After an altercation, Khabib surrounded Artem and slapped him in the face. Although that happened in New York and McGregor was in Ireland on the other side of the world, he hopped on a jet with some of his friends and went straight to New York to confront Khabib. He ambushed a bus full of Khabib and other UFC fighters exiting a UFC PR event. When Khabib refused to get off the bus, McGregor threw a metal dolly through the window. This injured multiple fighters and even got glass in the eye of Michael Chiesa, another fighter. When asked about the altercation, Conor famously said, "If Khabib had gotten off that bus, he'd be dead, and I'd be in jail." This landed McGregor in serious legal trouble, and he had to pay fines and commit to community service. The feud wouldn't end there, and eventually Khabib and Conor would fight. Conor said extremely disrespectful things about Khabib's religion, and even dead father. Although Khabib would defeat McGregor, the rivalry didn't end there, and the two still absolutely hate each other. Love him or hate him. McGregor sure has made a lot of enemies, and we've barely scratched the surface of why he's loathed by so many.